Jana?
Yes. Let me share my screen. I believe my screen is visible.
Yes, Jana, it's visible.
Right. Good morning, everyone. So thanks for the opportunity from the Delhi user group on behalf of the Global AI Bootcamp. So the topic for today, chat with your own organization data with the Azure OpenAI Service. Okay. So myself, Janathan and Silvaraj. So I am a technical manager and senior specialist at Evident. So I'm a Microsoft certified trainer as well as the Shisha Corner MVP. So I'm the global speaker for the AI. I used to give a talk on the AI technology as well as
So Janarthan is having some internet issues, I believe. So we shall wait a couple of minutes, guys.
Uh, Sorry for this interruption. I think we'll join soon.
I think there is a network issue. I hope you guys are able to hear me.
Yes, Jana, we are able to hear you.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear
You
you.
can share
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know where I dropped it.
We were onto the first page of the slide here.
This slide, right? The introduction part was there.
Yep, you were onto the introduction itself, so
Okay.
we can continue.
So the introduction part, this is about me, Janathan and Silvaraj. I am a technical manager and senior specialist at Evident. So, and also I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. And I used to contribute articles as well as blogs. And I'm open source researcher in the AI platform. So I used to give talks for the technical topics related to AI platform. So this is the agenda for today. So we have Azure OpenAI, Azure OpenAI Studio, the types of generative AI models, and how will you able to bring your data to the Azure OpenAI. And finally, we'll discuss about the responsible AI principles. So generative AI model, it is a model which is used to create a huge amount of content generation. The content can be your text, the content can be your audio, video, or it could be your 3D signal. Any type of content you want to create it, we can make use of generative AI model. So under generative AI model, so we have four models extensively classified. GPT 3.5, GPT-4, ChatGPT, Codex, and DALL-E model. So when it comes to GPT model, which is a generative pre-trained transformer model, The input will be in the form of a text. Again, the response will be in the text-based response. When it goes to the ChatGPT model, the input will be a text, or it could be a speech, and it will be the response will be the conversation-based responses in terms of ChatGPT. And when it comes to codex model, which is a code generation model, the input will be your text and the result will be your code, which is your codex model. And DALI, again, the input will be in the form of a text and the response will be in the form of images, which is the DALI model. So in order to understand this, let me show you an example. If you notice that a generative AI model, all these AI models, Gen AI models, it is a prompt response based model. You will be given a prompt and you will be expecting for a response. So in terms of GPT, we have a text-based generation. In ChatGPT, again, it is a text-based generation. In Codex, it is a code generation model. And in your DALI, it is an image generation model. So let me show you the Azure portal. So in the Azure portal, you can notice that under the Azure AI services, your Azure OpenAI, which is a part of your GenAI services. The moment if you click Azure OpenAI, you have to create a resource for Azure OpenAI. By default, the Azure OpenAI resource will not be available until unless you are having an access. You have to request an access for the Microsoft Forms. So within 5 business is a region specific. So we can type some name of your Azure OpenAI.
So, Jana, there is some network issue happening again. Your voice is cutting off in between. Can you try rejoining back again?
Are you guys able to see my screen? I'm facing the power issue in my area.
Yeah, we just lost you for a couple of minutes. Now the screen is not there. However, we can hear you, Jana.
Okay, I'll open the screen again.
Okay.
I believe my Azure OpenAI screen is visible right now.
Yes.
Okay. So Azure OpenAI resource is a part of Azure AI services. So we have to have a subscription. Afterwards, we will be creating a resource group. And there's Azure OpenAI, it is a region specific services. It will not be
Jana,
available for all the.
we can't see your screen right now.
Is it visible?
No, it's still not coming. Maybe can you try joining back again?
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the Azure OpenAI resource. We require a subscription, and Azure OpenAI resource, it is a region specific. And when it comes to the pricing tier, we may not have a free pricing tier. We have only one standard pricing tier. So we will be creating one Azure OpenAI resource, the resource which is I have created already. Yeah. So now I'm going to redirect to the studio, which is called as Azure OpenAI Studio. And if you notice the Azure OpenAI Studio, so we have different types of playgrounds available. One is completion playground, DALI playground, your assistant playground, and you bring your own data. So these are different types of playground as part of the Azure OpenAI's concern. The first playground we'll see about the completion playground. So the completion playground, we have various types of use cases we can make use of it. One is if I want to summarize the key resolution from the conversation, like you may be having a conversation between you and the customer. You want to summarize that particular use case, you can make use of this. If you want email generation, you can use completion playground. Your job description, fancy job description generation, again, you can use completion playground. If you want the entity recognition, again, you can make use of the completion playground. I want to summarize the financial report from the existing document. You may be using the completion playground. So let me show one example related to completion playground. So this is a conversation between the user and the agent. The user wants to travel to San Francisco for a nice trip, and he is requesting the agent what are the famous places nearby. So you need to generate a summary report in the particular format saying that customer problem, the outcome of the conversation, and what are the action items, what is the destination city, what is the departure city, how much customer is going to spend a budget. Okay. So there's an overall prompt we are given, and we are expecting the result in the form of this particular response. The moment you hit the generate button, I'm hitting the generate button now. And you may be able to see the corresponding summary report has been generated, whatever the format we have been specified. So this comes as a part of your which playground in the sense your text generation model. So any type of text generation model, you will be giving an input as a text and you're expecting the response in the form of a text, which is your text generation model related to a summarization aspect. And similar manner, you want to give an input in the form of your text, and the response will be in the image format. You can make use of the playground called as DALI playground. Yeah. So in the previous version of your Azure OpenAI, we may have different versions of DALI. So now we have DALI 3, which is newly introduced, and we have one more deployment, which is called as DALI 2 deployment. So I'm selecting the deployment, which is called as DALI deployment. So user can start typing the prompt in the DALI playground. So here I have given the input in the form of a text. The moment if I hit generate button, the image will be generated based upon the prompt where user has given. That is with respect to the DALI model. And if you notice the DALI model, we have different capabilities present, like we may be able to copy the prompt, we can generate a new image, we can download this image to a local. Okay. The moment if you click the download button, you can download the image to local. And if you want to delete the image, you can delete it. As well as if you want to, you need this particular code. I want to use this code in my application development. Again, I can make use of the DALI play. Okay. So let me go to the Visual Studio Code. So in the Visual Studio Code, the same code I have copy pasted it. Okay. And what are the packages I have been imported as OS package, OpenAI package I have been imported. So you require two important information from the DALI playground. One is the key, the another one is the endpoint. The line number 8, if you notice that OpenAI is the package, image is a class, create is a method. And we have passed three parameters, prompt, size, and n. N is nothing but number of images to be generated. And size here is nothing but the size of the image frame. And I have given the prompt. and the response will be in the form of an image URL. Okay. After if I execute this code, I got an image in the form of a URL. If I copy paste this image in a browser, I'm able to download the respective images. For example, I will execute this. You can see the respective images will be downloaded. So which means even you can make use of the DALL-E playground in your application development itself, and the code is already generated. Just you have to plug and play in your code in your application development, which is simplifying your most of the task. So this type of generation model, we can name it as a image generation model. Okay. And when it comes to the code generation model, so we have a platform called as Codex platform. Okay. So under Codex platform, the input will be in the form of your SQL query, which is a native English. And we are expecting the user write a SQL query for all the customers indexed named as Jan. So this is the prompt we have written for the existing table. So what are tables I have is customer as a table. And the columns I have specified over here is customer ID, first name, last name, country, city, postal code. And we are expecting to be generate a SQL query. Consider if I'm a non SQL query background, I'm not aware about any SQL knowledge, but I know the minimal English. Okay, that is far enough to write any prompt engineering stuff. So this is a prompt I have written it. If you notice that there are three tables available: employee table, department table, salary table, and the respective column names are specified over here. So what was the query I'm writing is a query to list the name of the department which employed more than 10 employees in the last 3 months. Okay. This is the prompt and we are expecting an SQL query. Even you don't have any knowledge on the SQL query, if you know how to write a prompt, that is sufficient enough to write any prompt in the Codex model. So this is called as code generation. So the code has been generated now as part of the SQL query. It is always necessary. This code, you are not directly put it into the production. You have to review this code with the corresponding lead engineering team or the architect team. Ensure that is it following a correct code generation? Is it following correct syntax? The all types of checks you have to do with your lead engineering team. Then only you have to put this code in the production. So again, your generative AI model, it is not only doing text generation, summarization, image generation, it does code generation as well. And the last part of the section is called as translation. If you want to translate the linguistic translation, for example, I may have a language in English. I want to convert those language into French. Then you can go for translation stuff. Okay. So how to do the translation stuff? We have a functionality over here is called as translate stuff. Just a second, translate text. So these two are the English statement. I want to translate in a French and Spanish. Will your completion playground will support these type of format? Yes, it will support it. So the completion playground, it is supporting your language translation from one English language to another linguistic language translation as well. And the last part of the large language model, which is your chatbot generation. So for chatbot generation, we have an existing playground in the Azure OpenAI stuff, which is called a chat playground. Okay. So this chat playground, it is not free. It will be a chargeable. So for if you want to chat with your normal OpenAI with your Azure OpenAI, now normal OpenAI is free, but Azure OpenAI will be a cost. So I'm chatting with the chat playground of your Azure OpenAI. So I'm writing a question is write a tagline for ice cream shop. So this is a tagline. There's a prompt I'm asking. Let's wait for the response. It is able to generate the responses. Okay. So there's a chat playground. Similarly, you may have an existing template. If you want a conversation between Shakespeare writing assistants, or else these are the existing chat playground. You can make use of it in your chat playground stuff of Azure OpenAI. So what is our discussion for today is, which is the Azure OpenAI Studio, which is called as bring your own data to the chat GPT. Okay. So how will you bring your own data to Azure OpenAI stuff? So in order to bring your own data to Azure OpenAI, we will be choosing one of the playground called as bring your own data. From December 2023 onwards, the bring your own data was still in the preview. So January month onwards, this bring your own data becomes general available. So anybody can make use of that their own data to the Azure OpenAI stuff itself. So I'm clicking the option called as bring your own data. Then the next step is after you're clicking the bring your own data, you can identify there is a separate tab called as add your data. Okay. Just click your add your data. So it will ask us to expect what are the data sources you have. Okay. So when it comes to data source, so I'm going to take the data from the blob storage. Blob storage, I'll be taking the data. And I have already uploaded the FAQs, the Excel sheet, PDF document, all type of document in the blob container. Okay. So you will be specifying the blob container, blob storage. Since you want the respective search as to be happen, you have to create a search service called as Azure AI Search. Earlier, we used to call it as a cognitive search. Now we are call it as the Azure AI Search. Azure AI Search is called as your cognitive search. And we require Azure Blob Storage. And we have to use a container that is Azure Blob Container. And inside the Azure AI search, I'll be creating an index. And after the index has been created, you have to schedule the index. Whether you want to schedule the index only once or a hourly basis you want to schedule, or else you want to schedule on a daily basis. Okay. So these are the three indexer options when it comes to bring your own data to Azure OpenAI stuff. Once it is done, you have to acknowledge this button. Whatever the search you have performed, this is going to incur your cost to your account. You have to check that particular checkbox. And the same type of search you can make use of in your Azure Cosmos DB as well. So I'm not using Azure Cosmos DB, rather I'm using Azure AI Search. So once that is done, I'm going to click the button called as review and finish. Then you can see here the ingestion started progressing. Okay, once the ingestion has started progressing, the next step is it will take almost 5 minutes time. The whole data will be uploaded in your add your data stuff. Now this is one of the tricky area. So how will you deploy this, bring your own Azure data, bring your own data to Azure OpenAI stuff? There are two ways to do that. Either you can go for the new web app. Okay. From 2023 onwards, we have a web app option is available. There is one more option called it as Power Virtual Agent. Now, after the Copilot comes to existence, instead of Power Virtual Agent, that Azure OpenAI team has changed to an option called as you may able to create your data through a new Copilot in the Copilot Studio also. This particular option is still in the preview mode. So once it is done, I'm using the option called as you're going to deploy data in a web application. I'm using a web application stuff. And ensure that you have to acknowledge is the whole web app. So whole web app is going to have an incurring cost. So once the web app has been deployed, you may be able to launch your web app by this button. Then it will ask you the permission. What type of permission is? You have to provide a consent for your bring your own data to Azure OpenAI. So you have to give the consent of your organization. Then, so immediately you will be getting this particular error. Your authentication is not configured. So any deployment you created under Azure OpenAI, you have to wait at least a minimum 5 minutes so that the whole authentication will be configured in the respective system. After you getting the error message after 5 minutes of time, you may able to see there is a web app. This web app will be available. User, you can ask questions and the answers will be getting the responses will be generated based upon the existing document you have been uploaded in the Azure Blob storage. And you can see the citation information. Okay. This type of citation information will be majorly missing in your conversational AI chatbot, which is related to Azure bot services. But here the citation information will be provided in your bring your own data to Azure OpenAI. So this is the overall flow. Let's see in the Azure portal how that has been used. So I'm using I'm using portal.azure.com. So in the portal.azure.com, first, what is a service you are supposed to create is you are supposed to create a blob storage. You require a blob storage. I will tell you how to create a blob storage. For blob storage, you need a storage account. So I'm creating a new storage account. You create a new storage account. So once you create a new storage account, we require a subscription resource group. You give a storage account name, the region, and which tier you want, whether you're a standard tier or premium tier, and what type of storage you want. So once it is done, the deployment will be taking in a minute or two. Then afterwards, your storage account deployment will become successful. Once the storage account deployment will be successful, you may able to see there is a container option in the left side of your storage account. So click container. Then after you click the container, you have to click this plus button to create a container. So I have already created a container called as retail container. In the retail container, you are supposed to upload the file. So I have already uploaded PDF document as well as an Excel sheet. I have been uploaded it. So what are the first step we have completed is we completed the Azure Blob storage and you have created a container, and inside the container you have uploaded the files. Once it is done, the next resource you are supposed to create is called as Azure AI Search. When it comes to Azure AI Search, you are supposed to create an AI search for your respective Azure OpenAI resource. In that, you have to choose subscription, resource group. You have to create a search service, location, and which pricing tier you want. Okay, once it is done, hit the button review plus create. In a minute or two, this particular service will become successful. So now you have created a storage account, you created a container, you created a search service, Azure AI search service. Afterwards, you have to create a Azure OpenAI service. Once all these three important resources are created, you go to the bring your own data page in the Azure OpenAI service. In this one, there is an option which is name it as add your data. Okay. In the add your data step, the moment if I click add your data, it will ask you the first option. What is the first option it is going to ask us is you are going to choose a data source. So give your storage account name, give the container name, give the Azure AI search. Once it is uploaded, you may be able to see your add your data. Then in this deploy to section, there are two options that are available. One is called as new web app. The second one is called as new copilot in the Copilot Studio. So I have used new web app. In the new web app, you can notice that what are the options it is asking us in the sense. It asks us the name, subscription, resource group, location, the pricing plan. And you have to enable this particular checkbox. Once it is done, it will take almost 5 minutes time to deploy a web application. After it is done, just click the button called as launch web app. The moment you have launched this web app, you will be getting an authentication not configured page. Afterwards, it will become successful. Now you just ask a questions. You may be able to chat your questions to your generative AI chatbot. So this is a generative AI chatbot, which is nothing but Azure OpenAI chatbot. So in this one, I'm going to ask you questions related to the pages. So I'm asking what is property and the casualty insurance? So it is going to hit that model with the help of a RAG model, and the response it is going to pick it up, and it is showing the citation information as well, in which document this particular citation information is coming. So likewise, you may be able to upload your respective documents in your Azure OpenAI services. So before the responsible AI, I will take your questions at this point in time. We have only responsible AI. Any questions?
So Jana, this side Kumar, can we ask questions a bit complicated one, like some aggregatable question, like what is the sum of all the sales that happened for this document, something like that?
So which means you have to upload the data which is related to. So you're going to ask that question in that to this chatbot.
Yep. So
So it will not
if I
answer.
okay.
If you have the data, it will answer.
Okay. So it can do the aggregation upon the data that I have.
Yes, it will
Okay.
do, because Azure OpenAI has a capability of having natural language to SQL, natural language to any type of language, and explain SQL query is also possible. That capability is present by default.
Okay, okay, that helps.
And this was a new one, they have introduced it. Earlier, if you ask me, there is no such type of option called as Copilot. So they have introduced Copilot. So earlier it was only Power Virtual Agent and only web app is available. Now they introduced this. And additional to that, you will be facing almost, in order to create this, bring your own data to Azure OpenAI, for me, it is taking almost 2 hours time. Why I will tell you. Microsoft every day they keep on changing the UI of Azure OpenAI stuff. Okay. And you will be getting exhausted. Your energy will be getting exhausted because whatever the option I am showing right now in that bring your own data part, it will not allow you to upload the files in the Azure Blob Storage. When you click this add data, because I have already had the data. Okay. So this option, you will not get immediately. You have to wait. Whatever I'm showing in the screenshot, right? You have to wait almost because in the back end, they are reflecting it. You will not get this two buttons enabled immediately. You have to wait it. Okay. That one challenge you will be facing. The other challenge, what you guys will face in the sense, this launch web app will almost taking 7 minutes of time to launching the web app. And other than that is, suppose if you're not providing consent to your respective data, you will not get this particular page. This particular page will not be getting it. And authentication page, it will take almost 5 minutes. Ensure that you have to wait for 5 minutes after you are given this permission. And always remember, you have to adhere to the principle of a responsible AI. So when it comes to responsible AI, there are different principles. We have fairness principles, reliability, safety, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. When it comes to accountability, everyone in the team is responsible for the generative AI application and development. It's not about an individual, it's about the team. And when it comes to transparency, the entire code documentation should be visible for everyone in your team. It's not to a particular individual. And fairness, you should not have any biased decision. You should take the decision only the team decision part. And the reliability to safety, the keys are encrypted, and every 30 days once, you have to regenerate your key. If you notice that key concept, so in your Azure portal, you can see the Azure OpenAI key. So we have two keys are there, key 1 and key 2. So every 30 days once, the data retention policies, you have to regenerate these two keys. Because of this principle, the reliability and safety you will be able to achieve it. And privacy and security, you should not trust anybody. You should use a zero trust principle, as well as all the data, it is at tenant level. Okay. Without giving the tenant permission, nobody will not able to access your data until unless if you give a tenant level access. And inclusiveness, everyone is equally included and everyone, you have equal rights to see the data. And you should not provide a permission to have a right access to everyone in the team. So I use access control wisely. So these are the principles you have to follow when it comes to responsible AI. I will take up questions. I'm done. I will take up questions. Any additional license that you want to buy? Okay, that is the question. I'll tell you how to do that. The Azure OpenAI stuff will not be available to everyone by general. So you have to ask Azure OpenAI request access, request form. Okay. How to get the Azure OpenAI access? This is the page. You have to give your first name, last name, and you need to give a Azure subscription ID. And please provide a first Azure subscription ID, not your tenant ID. Okay. So go to your Azure subscription and you have to copy paste your subscription ID here. And the fifth step, you have to give your company email address. Don't give any Gmail ID, don't give any Yahoo mail. They will reject. You have to provide your company email ID, provide your company email name and company related details afterwards. There is an option called 17th option. Which Azure OpenAI service feature are you requesting access for? You have to choose the first checkbox alone. Don't choose all the checkboxes. If you choose all the checkboxes, the application will be rejected. Okay. And some might be having a question, I want to use this particular use case. I'll tell you how to get this use cases ready. In the 18th section, you can choose all the checkboxes except the journalistic content and MVP. Okay, if you are an MVP, you can choose it. If you're a non-MVP, don't choose these two options. So choose all the remaining options. In 19th section, I acknowledge. 20th, I attest, and then submit it. So Microsoft will take 3 to 5 business days and they will approve your access if you're providing your company email address. If you're not giving a company email address, the access will not be given immediately. It will take some time. Once it is done, what is the next step is how to get remaining use cases access. There is another form. This is a form. You have to click this. Once you have onboarded to Azure OpenAI, you have to click this form so that you will get the additional use cases access. Okay. So they'll ask only one question is Azure OpenAI additional use case form. Have you onboarded to Azure OpenAI Service or not? So you'll be getting onboarding email of Azure Open. Once you are onboarded, just say yes and then submit it. So you will get the access for the Azure OpenAI additional use cases as well. So these are the 2 important steps you have to proceed when it comes to your Azure OpenAI stuff. Other than that, there is no need to buy any additional licenses. Additional licenses not required.
That helps.
Any other question?
Guys, you can unmute and ask questions from Janathan, and also you can post it onto this chat window.
When is a real case for using bring your own data?
For example, if you are using your financial data or else an insurance data, you want to create a conversational AI chatbot. In the conversational AI chatbot, what will be happening in the sense, it does the keyword search. Okay. If customer is asking, if it is not available in any of the documentation, the customer may be getting frustrated. It is not answering the relevant responses. In that cases, you can make use of the generative AI chatbot. It will provide a semantic search. Semantic search in the sense, even though it is not available that particular data from the existing data source, it will try to get the responses from the online data in terms of semantic search. So you can create this particular generative AI chatbot in the healthcare industries, like healthcare provider customers, you can make use of it, or else even in your retail industry, you can make use of it. Your financial industry, you can make use of it, as well as insurance policy, insurance related queries also, you can make use of your generative AI chatbot.
So will it follow all the rules like HIPAA and all those healthcare rules will be followed
When it comes to your healthcare, it will follow the FIFA principle, okay, as well as if you want to add your own policy, you can add your own policy, and Microsoft clearly instruct that the transparency notice your data is your data. Okay, they are not using your data for any other training purpose. So that particular transparency note already given by Microsoft, we can trust on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And it's not in preview, right, Jana? It's already.
It is not in preview.
It's
Durleen.
GA.
It is in your general level mode only. If you notice that I have shown, right? If you ask me in the month of before Jan, it was in the preview mode. Now it is in the GA only. It's in GA. And one important concept I want to tell you, there is a part called as quota section. Okay. So this is a very, very important part. If you are an enterprise organization, you should consider it. Okay. What was this particular idea is? So these are the areas, these are the regions where Azure OpenAI Service is possible to use it. Okay. So every model of Azure OpenAI has been given a token consumption a quota limit, which is 240 tokens. If you exhausted this token, you have to request for this token. Okay. So then you might be asking a question is, my client is not waiting for because I have exhausted my quota limit. Then what you can do that? The same particular service you may be able to deploy it in another nearest region so that by the time you will be granted with your request quota time. And always use your tokens wisely because every token which is equivalent to 4 characters, which is 3 by 4 words. So how will you able to calculate pricing in the sense? So now I'm typing this particular question. So one token equal to 3 by 4 words. 3 by 4 words into it is deployed in the East US region. For 1,000 tokens, the cost, let me check the cost. I'll tell you how the cost has been, pricing has been calculated. I'll tell you. So this is the Azure OpenAI pricing model. If you notice that I have used GPT-3.5 Turbo model. So for 1,000 tokens, the cost was $0.005. Okay. Let's consider 5. 5 into I'm consuming input token is 40 and output token is 40. 40 plus 40 is 80. 80 into $0.005 into 0.5, $1.5. That is the total cost in order to estimate one particular token in your any of this model. So use it the tokens wisely. It's not having just because you have the access to Azure OpenAI doesn't mean that for simple use cases don't use it. When there is a need, then use it accordingly.
That helps.
If you are still you want to use it, what is one more the suggestion I will be recommending is you might be having a Copilot section in your page, right? Whatever questions you want to do, summarization, every questions you ask here, this will perform it. The same question, for example, I want to do the summarization. Okay, the whole thing I will copy paste here and I will ask it. I will not go to the completion playground and I'll ask. I'll ask everything in the Copilot section itself. Because when I go for the completion playground, what will happen in the sense? See how much token it is going to consume. The input token is how much? The input token is how much, guys?
3180.
3118. Okay. So let's go for the calculator. 3118. The output token will be consider. Let's consider 620. So how much it is now? 938. 938 into what was the pricing of input token?
0.0005
into 0.0015.
0.01.
So that much cost it is going to be consumed per one prompt. Okay. So this is the way you will be calculating a prompt for your Azure OpenAI. Any other questions?
So we need to always compare between our chatbot and Azure bot and this AI unless it is more
Relevant
pricing
unless
effect.
it is more
More
needed. More if you're in demand or if you're in need, then use it. My recommendation, don't use ChatGPT. Most of the people will use the chat.openai.com, right?
okay.
So stop using that. Instead of that, make use of the Copilot extensively compared to that.
So any advantage if you feel between both of them?
ChatGPT sometimes it is behaving sometimes weird. And we don't guarantee that the ChatGPT, chat.openai will be safe and secure in terms of data. When it comes to Copilot, it was the data is protected. Your data is your data, and it is at your tenant level. You may able to manage it compared to trust instead of trusting someone else. You may trust it on by individual. That is one. And Copilot responses are more relevant and accurate compared to ChatGPT.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, this is my LinkedIn. If you guys want to have a connect, you can connect with me.
Thanks, Jana. It was a beautiful session today. Yeah, got to learn so much about this.
Thanks, Durveen. Thank you so much for providing this wonderful opportunity.
Thanks. So our next speaker is Ashish. Ashish, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I audible?
Yep, you are audible. Okay, so over to
Okay.
you, Ashish.
Yeah, let me turn on my camera. I think I am facing some issue with my camera today.